Good morning. I'm going to talk about mandatory drug tests in prison, MDTs. When I was in Belmarsh, I remember very well the first time I was called up for one. It was around the time my mum died, and I have to be honest and say that I'd been smoking a little bit of weed here and there. Got called up for an MDT on a Sunday morning, and I immediately thought, oh dear, this isn't going to be good. Was escorted to the drug testing suite. There were two other guys already there. One of them did his test real quick, gave his sample, and off he went, and I was left with the other guy who he looked a little bit sheepish, probably like me. So I have always had trouble with drug tests. I've never failed one, but I have I think it's classed as a mental condition called paresis, and this is recognized as the inability to have a wee when there's anybody in the vicinity. I know there's a very specific reason why I have that. It's to do with toilets, and I'm not going into it. Yeah, that's something between me and me, really. So when you get called up, when you arrive at the suite, the clock starts ticking. You have 3 hours to provide a sample. If after 3 hours you still haven't provided, you will be given another hour if the staff involved believe that you are genuinely happy to give a sample. It's just that you need the extra time. Maybe you're a bit dehydrated, whatever it is. Sometimes they come and get you first thing in the morning, and you might have just got up and had a wee, and you're sort of waiting. You're allowed to have one small cup of water. I think it's either every 45 minutes or every hour. I can't remember, but it's one of the little plastic cups. And if you get the right screws on the right day, they'll just let you kind of have a few. They just want the job done, and so they can get out of there, same as we do. So I used to, after my first couple, I used to just say to them straight away, look, I'm going to be here for a while. I've got paresis. I will give you a sample. It will be clean, but you're just going to have to wait. Unfortunately for me, the paresis that has been recognised by medical science for donkey's years, the prison service didn't recognise, and they said that there was no such thing. So it was kind of a problem for me. I can go to the toilet when there's people around, but I have to be desperate to go. It's the same as if I'm out somewhere. I can't just walk into the toilet of a pub or whatever and just stand at the urinal. If there's anyone in there, or if anybody comes in while I'm about to go, that's me done. So wherever I am, I head straight for the cubicle, and even then, if there's people outside of the cubicle, I struggle. But I get there in the end. I never, when you hit that 3 hour mark and they give you another hour, if you fail to provide after that 4th hour, you get nicked for that. That's refusal. So it's a straight up nicking, and they pretty much treat it as a positive sample. So you'll get, I don't know, it depends on your record, but you might get loss of canteen, you might get put on basic regime, which means you're locked in your cell all day, no telly. Yeah, basic. You're allowed pretty much everything in your cell, but you're not allowed a telly, and you're not allowed out on association. I believe from memory, I have been on basic once. From memory, they unlock your door for I think 45 minutes a day, and you're then able to, or you try to cram it all in: phone calls, shower, bits and bobs that you need sorted out that you can't get done from in your cell, and then you're locked up again. So if you fail a piss test or refuse to give, you could find yourself on basic. You could get nicked for it as well, get an adjudication, and punishments for adjudication are there's a whole range of stuff. Things like that depend on your sort of previous record mostly, and if you've been a pain in the arse and you've had other nickings, then you're going to get a slightly more serious punishment. This first ever MDT I did, so we were left with 2 of us there sitting in a holding room. This guy, he couldn't go, and then he had an epileptic fit right in front of me, and I saw it. I saw everything that happened, and the screws accused him of faking it. I can't remember whether epilepsy was on his medical record. It must have been. They accused him of faking it, but I can tell you now, there's no way anybody could have faked what he faked, because at the very beginning of his fit, he started to stand up, and then he just had this spasm, and he literally jumped off the floor, spun 180 degrees and landed square on the top of his head on the floor, and then was fitting on the floor for a minute or so. I'm calling, banging on the door because I didn't know what was going on. He wet himself as well, as it goes. Yeah, that's right. He completely, he was in a prison tracksuit. It was one of the old style sort of purple ones, and when he stood up off the floor, he had a massive wet patch, and still they accused him of faking it. And do you know what? Maybe he was, but I'll tell you what, he took one for the team to fake it, because he smashed his head on that concrete floor, and he was covered in piss, and they made him sit there, and they still wanted him to give them their sample. I don't know what the outcome was. I mean, if he's emptied his bladder into his fucking tracksuit, I can't imagine. We'd already been there for probably at least 2 hours, so he was running out of time. Like I say, knowing prison and prisoners as I do now after all my years of experience, yeah, maybe he was faking it, and I don't know what the outcome was. He was from another wing. I don't know whether he got a nicking. I don't know whether he gave a sample, and I don't know whether his sample that he gave was positive or not. But there's no, I mean, wow, he smashed his head. It was rough. You know, I'm sitting there just thinking, fucking hell, this is my first ever one. So I was still much more in the kind of mindset that nobody did any skullduggery like that. Prison naivety. We've all been there once. Yeah, so I gave a sample in the end. I didn't fail, and I don't know, I probably carried on having a joint or two. I was, you know, I didn't care at the time. My mum had just died, and I'd just pleaded guilty as well at the Old Bailey to 11 of the 26 charges laid against me. So really, in the bigger picture, I didn't want to kind of upset my record in the prison, but overall I didn't care enough to stop smoking. I'm going to do voluntary drug tests